Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Remember, go to game7baseball.com, get your team registered for upcoming spring first, summer tournaments. Great stuff going on there. And today on the show, we are still working our GAC Coaches Preview. Liberty, that is Winsville.
Correct.
Yes,
not Casey.
Not Casey. Liberty Eagles, GAC Central, and we're joined by head coach Mark Reeder. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
My
Glad
pleasure.
to be here, yeah.
Yeah, this is it's a lot of fun, and I've told all the other coaches I really do. I appreciate you guys, the way you've responded. It's been really great, and I appreciate it so much because you never know when you start talking to people, you're like, you don't, and it's tough because I'm sure you guys, have been approached at different times about different things and whatnot, and it's hard to know, is this going to be, worth my time? Because, as we know, and we were talking before, family, all those things that you're dealing with, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think most of us baseball guys enjoy talking baseball, and any chance we get to talk about our teams and, other programs, I think we all kind of jump at that and just enjoy talking about the game.
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. We got to talk a little bit here. 14-20, you guys got off to a pretty tough start last year in 2022, but 6-4 in the GAC Central. Mm-hmm. And as I said, you kind of righted your ship a little bit toward the end. You played much better at the end. 10 returning seniors is a big-time positive, though.
It is, for sure. Yeah, we definitely struggled early in the season last year. I think a little bit of that, I can take the blame. A new coach coming in, trying to figure out what our kids do best. You can only see so much in the preseason. And until we got into those games, it took us a little bit to kind of figure ourselves out. A good season, in terms of the GAC Central. We were competitive, a tough conference. And then ended on a good note. I think we won 7 of our last 9, and beat some quality teams there that, Howell Central, who was a quarterfinal team, Parkway Central, who was a quarterfinal team, quality wins at the end of the season that, hopefully can carry over for us and a little momentum going into the start of this year.
And, as you said, Parkway Central, Francis Howell Central, both very good teams, good arms. Guys, I watched that Parkway Central team. Those guys in the middle lineup, they can hit.
For sure. And you're talking about 2 programs that, quality coaches that have been around and guys that know how to get their teams ready for, a season and then a postseason run. Beating teams like that, not easy, but always good to have, especially at the end of the year, hopefully for your playoff run. Ours started and ended kind of quickly. But again, some positives to build on for 2023.
And I thought it was interesting, as we talked a little bit earlier. We did get a chance. We on our player spotlight with Seth Bennis, and I thought that was a question we asked, and it was tough because it is. You go from one coach to another. It takes a little bit of time to develop those relationships, doesn't it?
Definitely. I think it's with anything. Anytime you move into a new role, everybody's trying to figure each other out.
Right.
And building those relationships with the kids. And we have great kids in our program. We're lucky. We've got great families. We get good support. But it takes time. And, hopefully now in year 2, we've been together a while. I kind of know the younger kids, coming up through the program, and hopefully, our coaching staff can get these kids ready to go when we start February 27th and get ready to roll.
There you go. The tough thing is you've added Holt, but, every week is going to be a pretty tough pitching matchup, Tuesdays, Wednesdays as far as conference. And then we understand, non-conference schedules tough around the state. But let's talk pitching first. At the top of that, we know there's the young man, Seth Bennis. Had a 1.79 ERA for you, but still struggled, getting wins in there. The other young man that I saw that had some innings for you was, I believe it's Mason. Is that correct?
Yes, Mason.
Mason Maine. 4.67 ERA, but he had a couple wins, some innings. You lost Sam Gordley. I think, and so he was a big arm there for you.
Definitely, yeah. He was our Wednesday starter, through the conference. Another one, Tyler Timmerman, who was coming off injury last year that had a great season for us. So, yeah, we're going to have to find some pieces. Seth is hopefully going to be our guy every Tuesday for those conference matchups. But we're going to have to find some younger guys. Mason will certainly be one of those guys that we're going to give a shot. Aiden Cole is another senior that had some innings for us last year. He's had a good offseason, coming off an injury at the end of last season. So we're expecting big things out of him as well. And then we have some younger kids that are going to have to step up, kids that were on the JV last year, kids that were on the freshman team last year. Another big one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you got some names: Ty Holman, Noah Kuehner, I believe it is. Dominic Keener. Excuse me.
It's all right.
Sorry, Mr. Name. Keener. I hate messing up guys'
It's
names.
tough. It's tough. There's some difficult names out there for sure.
But Dominic Nordman, do you see these guys in the mix?
So Ty is a kid that we're expecting a lot out of. Unfortunately, he did have a little injury in the off season, so he's coming back from a surgery. It will not be fully cleared until the first week of April. He's throwing now, but he's a kid that could be a big time arm for us the next year or so. He's got the frame, he's got the velocity. If Ty can be consistent with being a pitcher, he could be a Seth Bennis type with the type of stuff that he has. We won't rush him back. Hopefully he's good, cleared to go. But we're hoping late season that Ty's somebody that we can rely on.
I like the fact of when you go into a season, you have it may be a little tough for a coach, but I think it's interesting to have that kind of open competition. You got some young guys, you got some guys about, but that competition kind of breeds that opportunity, doesn't it?
Definitely. And we're, we kind of preach that to our kids, nothing's set in stone. Do we think Seth will be the top of the rotation guy? Yeah, but as we were just talking before we started, if somebody takes that spot from Seth, we're going to be in pretty good shape. And we look at that with all positions. We have a few other guys returning kind of around the field, which I'm sure we'll get to. But, yeah, it's about competing, and, we're going to give guys that maybe aren't starting early on that everybody's going to get a shot, whether it's in practice and you're going to earn your spot in a game, or, we play 5-6 games a week. Somebody's going to get a break and somebody else is going to get an opportunity. And you know what? Compete and see what happens. And, we want guys in there that are doing what they can to help us win.
How many kids do you kind of normally get out, Coach, for tryouts and whatnot when you're coming out to the spring? So
freshman through senior, we're anticipating anywhere from 70 to 80, and that number can fluctuate. Sure. There are a few that are kind of on the fence, whether baseball, track, and we want kids competing. Whether it's with us or not. So we usually have a pretty good number, which makes for some tough decisions. But that's why, us high school coaches get the big bucks to make those tough decisions. And it's, and I'm sure any other coach would say tryouts are by far the toughest part of the job, telling a kid that, you're not going to be with us. And it's part of the job, but we try to give everybody that fair shake and try to make the best decisions that we can for our team.
Yeah. I heard it the other day. Coach told me, bigger school, I said, I may cut a kid that may play college baseball.
For sure.
Because that's, the size of the program, the depth. I'm like, that's crazy.
It's tough. It's tough. And, you look at there's probably some kids, especially in the GAC, there's probably some kids in the GAC that don't make it that, could go to other schools around the area, around the state, and could be, quality baseball players for them. But it's tough. Those decisions are never easy, and you have to make it so quickly at the beginning of the season because you start games, 17 days after the first day of practice.
I would say that some of those coaches in some of the smaller schools would be up for a draft lottery.
For sure. There's no doubt about it. Right. There's no doubt about it. And I wish we could share those kids. Obviously it's not realistic, but we'd love for these kids we'd love to keep everybody. It's just unfortunately not realistic. But it's part of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Defensively, Trevor York up the middle, out. He was. I'm trying to remember. I saw one game. He's shortstop.
Shortstop.
Yeah. Okay. I was right.
He was a stud for us last year.
And then I thought, well, was he center field? But he was shortstop, right?
So I think he played outfield a little bit as a junior. I think maybe predominantly as a junior. But yeah, he started short every single game for us, hitting the leadoff spot. He was one of those silent leaders. He didn't say a whole lot, but we knew day in and day out, he was going to be in the lineup, and he was going to be a problem for the opposing pitcher, and played great defense for us as well.
That's the tough one. But I want to start back here first, and we'll get to that next. But he was fun to watch. I enjoyed watching him play last year. Catcher always starts there. I always think it's interesting because you got to have that guy that can handle top level pitching, because it's not easy sitting back there catching guys that are throwing mid to upper 80s.
No, it's not.
Being able to handle everybody, make sure everybody's in the right place, thinking through the game, constantly on top of it, because they see everybody. Who are those kids you're looking for?
So returning, we have Peyton Braille. Braille started a handful of games as a sophomore for us, and then probably 95% of our games last year. And I think he would be the first to admit that he struggled offensively last year, and we're gonna need and ask a lot out of him from an offensive perspective. Defensively, he's solid. We know what we're going to get every single day out of him. He handles the pitching staff, like you said. He can chuck it from behind the plate. I don't know what he is, pop time, but it's pretty darn good.
He just got a new one. I saw him Saturday.
Okay, well, I'll have to check it out. But yeah, he's a special kid, and I think it's going to help. We've got a sophomore that's going to be behind him that's pretty darn good too, Jake Greer, who. I hope he does push Peyton to, Jake's going to get some time behind the plate for us too. Peyton has the, some versatility that he could play first base for us too if needed, maybe as a break to let Jake catch. But we're fortunate. We have as much depth, I think, at catcher as we do at any position in the program. I mean, we've got catchers lined up that, unfortunately, we can only play one catcher, at a time.
Right.
But we've got some younger kids as well that we're excited about. We actually have a transfer in too from Florida that can catch, Connor Gilliam, that we're looking forward to see what he can do, not only behind the plate, but can play some corner infield as well, and like what I've seen with his swing so far as well. So catching, I like where we're at. We can always get better, for sure. Hopefully those kids can get it done for us, but excited about that group.
When I see the kids, the PBR events, they're working, whatnot, I met Peyton Braille, talked to him for a few minutes, really liked him, nice young man. And seeing that, they're working to get better. They're seeing where they're at, competing around with the other kids. Jake Greer was there. So I think I love that part of it. That shows me these kids are working to get better.
For sure.
And love
and
that.
those two competing against each other, you'd never know it. They're each other's kind of biggest fan. They work together, when catchers are off doing their thing. It's not a me against you. It's, hey, what can I do to get you better? And, vice versa. And you love that for kids. You love that for your program because it's all going all moving in the same direction.
That's a leadership thing, Coach.
For sure.
Absolutely. So up the middle there, how do you replace Trevor?
It's a good question. I think the cliche answer is, you never can replace that guy, right? You hope somebody can. We've got two young kids that are going to get the first crack at it. Junior Austin Capizzi, who was our shortstop on the JV last year, who's had a great offseason. He's put on a bunch of muscle. Not a tall kid, kind of like Trevor, about the same height, a little thicker. And we're excited to see what he can do, defensively. And he could also be a guy that could hit at the top of the lineup for us. Has a little bit of speed. And the other kid's a sophomore, Jacob Robinson, who Jacob got a little taste of varsity last year. He got about 15 at-bats for us. And we're excited to see, those two guys compete. And I think it's going to be a close battle, and it might be something that one starts game one and the next one starts game two, and it might not be a definitive answer until, we kind of get rolling in the season. But I think they're going to push each other. They're going to compete, and it's going to be kind of a fun battle to watch unfold.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You get 10 games in the season, you give them a chance. You see them through the tryouts and whatnot.
Yep.
But you get 10 games in, they get equal to who wants it.
Right.
I love that stuff.
And sometimes it's about, you got to ride the hot bat or ride who's, playing better defensively. And I think, the game and the flow of things kind of dictate that. But I don't think one of those guys is just going to take it and be gone with the job, and they're going to, have it for the duration of the year. And if that were to happen, they can both play outfield. They can both play second base. There's some versatility there. So they're both going to get their shots.
There's the other thing, and I want, if you're watching this, kids, we've been saying this. Kevin Mulder's been preaching this on the show for the last however long he's been on it. Play wherever tell the coach, even if you haven't played there before, yes, I can.
For sure. And I'll be honest, we have a lot of those kids. We have a lot of kids that not only say it, but can do it.
Yeah.
And, that really helps us out because a lot of our position players are pitchers as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces from game to game, and the versatility is a big thing. And, especially if your bat can play, if you can find a spot in the field, you're going to be in the lineup, and we'll find a defensive spot for you for sure.
If you're swinging, you're playing.
No doubt. No doubt.
Oh, yes, indeed. That takes us to the last piece, the outfield, center field, the corners, and in the infield. I always look at the corners that way. How do you,
we'll start with infield. So probably when he's not pitching, Seth Benez will probably be at first.
Okay.
He could also fill a DH role for us as well, kind of depending on what we need.
Because he swings it pretty good, too.
He can, for a guy that doesn't hit all summer. And, I know he'd be the first to admit it. He has started swinging a little bit earlier this offseason, so it's good to see him already in the cage and getting some swings in. But he will be a middle-of-the-order guy for us, game in and game out. Was probably one of our more consistent hitters last year, so we're going to certainly be counting on him. Aiden Cole will also be at first if he's not pitching. Aiden can also play the outfield, which is where he kind of filled in for us late in the year last year. Peyton Braille, if he's not catching, Peyton could be at first. The transfer Connor Gillum could also be. Peyton is a big kid. He's a big target over at first base. So we certainly have some options there with, again, a lot of those guys, on the mound as well. Dominic Nordman is going to get the first shot at second base. He split time there last year, did a good job for us. Also played a little bit of third for us. So Nordy's not a very big kid, but he's scrappy and plays the game the right way and is a pretty good glove at second base for us. Third base, don't know yet. Kind of open competition, which is a good thing. We do have a guy returning that saw some time there last year, Ryan Castile. He'll get the first crack, but I know there's a couple younger kids that'll be knocking on the door as well that hopefully will push Ryan, and hopefully Ryan will kind of take that as a challenge and, hey, I'm not going to give this spot up and I'm going to keep it. But a lot of competition on the infield for sure. We'll see how it all plays out. And, again, with a lot of those guys on the mound, it's going to be some mixing and matching. And Tuesday's going to look different than Wednesday, which is going to look different than Friday and Saturday, which is a good thing. We're okay with that.
Yeah.
Outfield, we have a couple returners. Cohen Waldron was our left fielder last year as a sophomore. A tough adjustment for him early in the season, kind of going from freshman baseball, jumping to varsity baseball. Obviously a big jump. But I thought he got better as the year went on, and he's going to slide to center field. A kid that can go get anything and everything.
I love it.
Great personality. I mean, he'd probably be with the personality of the team, and he's a goofball in a good way, but he keeps things light for the guys, and you know what you're going to get from him every day. He's going to compete, and he's going to have quality at bats, and just a fun kid to have.
You got to have that one guy.
You have
right?
to, and he fills that role for sure. Left field, first crack. I'm not sure left field, right field, but Mason Young, Mater, will be probably in one of the corners. Mater, nickname Mater. I don't actually know the story behind that.
I wonder. It's got to be.
It's got to be a good story.
Yeah.
Some of the nicknames I'd rather not know where they got it from. So I don't know. Hopefully it's something. Hopefully it's something. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, Mater will be out there. He kind of took over a starting role about halfway through last season. He ended up kind of being our two-hitter as a guy that can handle the bat. He can bunt. He can run a little bit. He can hit and run. Not the fastest kid in our program, but is by far our best base runner. Good reads, good jumps, a good weapon for us to have at the top of the order. Then to follow up with a Benez and a Braille, somebody that can get on base and cause a little havoc.
Sure.
Another outfield spot, I don't know. It could be Aiden Cole. There's some younger kids too, or potentially those infielders that if they're not at short or second, could be in another outfield spot. So there's certainly some gaps that we need to fill, and we'll kind of let the the preseason and everything and those early couple games kind of see how that all shakes out.
I think it's very interesting. You got the returning seniors, but you're talking you've got some depth there that's given some opportunities to some kids that I think is cool. For sure, it's open season. We let's go compete, and we'll take those guys that you used the term earlier. We're talking dogs. We want the dogs. Go out and just kind of be the throwback dirt balls that are you're diving for balls and you're getting after it.
those are the kids that we want playing every day. Those are the kids that are going to give us a chance to win for sure.
Offensively, we talked about Seth. Last year, as you said, he was consistent. 370, 463, 620. That's a pretty good slash line for a pitcher.
For sure. For a guy that doesn't
right?
that doesn't take a whole lot of swings from, the end of May to January. But an athlete, right? A competitor that, fine, I'm not going to hit all summer. I'll be good when the spring season rolls around, and I'm going to go compete.
2 home runs, 26 RBIs. You love the run production. Aiden Cole also 345, a 387, 379. Not the slugging, but love the batting on base percentage. Was it Cohen Waldron?
Cohen, correct. He was the sophomore outfielder last year. That
286 for a sophomore, coach.
For sure.
And that's the thing. You said that, that freshman jump to varsity. That, you have to realize that's a 15-year-old kid going to play with 17, 18-year-old kids, yes. And it is a big difference.
It is, and I think it just takes time. I think some kids make it look easier than what it really is. And Cohen was one of those kids that kind of just took that slow process, the slow steps to get there. And he got there. He became a quality piece for us at the end of the year. Actually had a late injury that kept him out of district play, which we missed him. But just getting better kind of throughout the process of the season. And by the end, he wasn't a rookie sophomore anymore. He was a 30-game veteran that had seen, high-level varsity pitching both in and out of the conference. And it pays off. When you're in districts, you're not a rookie, you're not a sophomore anymore. You're a veteran now.
Well, and with what we saw pitching wise, I think if you got the guys that can score the runs, I think that's I think the biggest question when we talked about even last year, you looked like you had quite a bit of depth. Deal with injuries, of course, always, but if your depth is there at the pitching, then it's just a matter of developing those guys in that order. How are you getting runs? How are you manufacturing runs, right?
Yeah, and for us, the struggles we had early on was throwing strikes on the mound. And, I think that led to some of our defensive woes as well. You're getting 2-3 guys on with free passes, defense is getting flat-footed, and now, a ball's being put in play that maybe we don't handle, and that turns into a crooked number pretty quick. And, we're behind the 8 ball, and we were a team that struggled to score runs already as it was. It put us in some tough spots. And, you got to be able to throw strikes at the high school level. You got to be able to play clean defense. And if you don't, you get a record that looks like 14-20 as opposed to, flipping it.
Yeah.
And that's just part of it. And we've got to be better this year at that.
I always like to give a little love and bring out the names. I think this is good. Your first year last year, second year this year, you're looking at this program. How are you developing that relationship with your freshman coach, your JV coaches, your varsity, and what's that messaging that's going throughout the program? So
we actually had a little turnover this year. Our freshman coach from last year has actually moved up to the JV, Dan Wheeler, who's been in the program since Liberty Open back in 2013. And Dan did a great job with our freshman group last year. They went undefeated at the freshman level. In a small sample size of games, the crazy spring weather that we get sometimes in the umpire or lack of umpiring in the area. We lost some freshman games to not having officials, and I know we weren't the only ones. But he led an undefeated freshman team last year and did a great job with those kids in developing. So we're looking forward to he's kind of looping with a lot of those kids to the JV, and he just does a great job relating to kids and kind of passing down the message that we have to our varsity kids and kind of holding those sophomores to the same expectations so that when they get to us, it's stuff that they've heard, it's the same verbiage, and kids kind of know what we're looking for. So new freshman coach coming in, Carl Ladage, looking forward to see, what he does with our freshman group. A younger coach, not a younger guy, but a younger coach, and just is excited to be in the program and to work with our kids. And they seem to so far have kind of taken to him and enjoy being around him. And he's got a tall task to repeat as an undefeated freshman coach. So hopefully not too much pressure is being put on Carl. Not for me, but hopefully on his own self pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, coach, but undefeated.
And then I do have my two varsity assistants are returning, Dan Fox and Steve Porter. guys that, see the game the kind of the same way that I see it, and we're all on the same page. Not that it's always agreeing on things, but it's always,
but I understand,
always in the same direction. We're always looking to move ourselves forward and to get better. And, we're just like any other coaches. There's disagreements, and you know what? We say our piece and move on. But it's good to have those guys that I'm close with, that we can have those kind of tough conversations with each other if we disagree, and if it's trying to make our team and our program better, then I think it's a good, healthy relationship.
Absolutely. Because somebody may say something at first, you're like, no, I haven't done. But then you think through things and whatnot, you go, let's see what happened.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with those things, because sometimes the perspectives that you take and you keep moving, if things aren't working, how do you change something? How do you move something in the right direction? And I think that's always the challenge.
For sure. For
any head coach, because a lot of times, I think this coach, you can, kind of speak to this. I always feel like a head coach is the guy that has to manage all the personalities, because regardless at any level, you're dealing with egos,
right?
And that's okay, because you have to have some confidence to play at a high level of sport. And so when those are the things that I think are the most difficult tasks.
They are, but I also think that's what kind of makes it challenging as well. It's rewarding in that way. But yeah, to have guys that you trust, and you have to have coaches that you can trust. I let them do their thing. They have their roles of what they're coaching. They do their thing, and we talk every day after practice. We sit there after games and we talk through things, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows, but again, we're trying to make our kids better, not only on the field, but we talk about character stuff and you name it, because it's bigger than baseball, right? We're helping mold young men and get guys to move on, not necessarily to college baseball, but to college and their life. And we have a small part, but it's an important part, and we take pride in doing things the right way with our kids. And as long as we're all on the same page with that, I can take guys telling me that I'm wrong all the time.
Folks, Coach Mark Reeder, Liberty High School, Liberty Eagles. Coach, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would talk baseball all day long.
I enjoyed the heck out of that. That was some really good stuff.
Well, thanks for having me out. Thanks for all you do for high school baseball, GAC baseball. I know you're doing youth baseball stuff. It's nice to have somebody that cares, not necessarily cares, more than, but cares to come out and promote our kids and promote the programs. And, I can't speak for all the coaches, but I know that we certainly appreciate what you guys do.
Well, thank you. One of the things that we're working to do, and, because we're going to have Liberty and versus Holt. Now, it'll probably be at Holt, because that's the Tuesday. I think it's at Holt.
Okay.
But one of the things we're working to get on campus a little earlier, set up, and we did a small pregame show last year before the game, the GAC game of the week, and we're trying to do it this year, but we want to add some of the student body to it.
Okay.
So we're hoping to get some of the kids out there and have some fun and really, because baseball is such a great sport, and football and basketball, they get all the pub, but I see a lot of good crowds.
For sure, especially out in St. Charles County. I mean,
right?
Any place you go, as long as you get the nice weather, which in the springtime isn't always the greatest, but especially you get later in the year and you're getting those 70-degree days, and yeah, it's fun to have people come out and support, and whether it's at home or you're on the road, it's just fun to have people in the crowd and crowds getting into it.
Well, just as long as the kids aren't duking it out, I hope to have Liberty kids and Holt kids.
That would be great. Hopefully there's no duking it out, but yeah, hopefully we get a good crowd out there and get to see some good baseball.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Coach. Everybody, appreciate you tuning in. Remember, subscribe. If you enjoy what we're doing, please do hit that dinger right there, because that's what we do. We hit dingers. If you're looking for some uniforms and whatnot, make sure you check out our friends over at Prime Sports Midwest. PrimeSportsMW.com. Get your uniforms. Get yourself set up for the season. They do a great job. Tell Rick YBM sent you. All right? So, everybody, always remember, pitchers, keep throwing strikes. Hitters, Coach, you got some advice for the hitters?
We'll go back to pitchers. Don't give up the dingers. I know you just said we like the dingers. Pitchers, let's try to keep it in the park. Hitters, yeah, just how about we just hit fastballs in the zone, be ready to go.
Oh, I love that one. That's good. Man, we're getting some good stuff here. I love it.
It's easy to say from this side of the table. In the GAC, facing some of those arms, maybe not so easy.
Agreed. We'll see y'all next time.